Is it possible that the surface chatter of dinner parties, underneath that, there is a turmoil of ideas and thoughts and beliefs that's going on, but you're just talking to people really close to you or in your own mind, and then the socialization happens at the dinner parties? Like when you go outside the inner circle of 1, 2, 3, 4 people who you really trust, then you start to conform. But inside the mind, there is an actual belief or a struggle, a tension with the New York Times or with the for the listener, there's a slow smile that overtook Marc Andreessen's face.
So look, I'll just tell you what I think, which is at the dinner parties and at the conferences, no, there's none of that. It's what there is that all of the heretical conversations, anything that challenges the status quo, any heretical ideas, and any new idea, is a heretical idea. Any deviation, it's either discussed a one-on-one, face-to-face. It's like a whisper network. Or it's like a real life social network. There's a secret handshake, which is like, okay, you meet somebody and you like know each other a little bit, but like not well. And like, you're both trying to figure out if you can like talk to the other person openly or whether you have to like be fully conformist. It's a joke.
Well, yeah, humor. 100%.
Somebody cracks a joke, right? Somebody cracks a joke.
Yep.
If the other person laughs, the conversation is on.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the other person doesn't laugh, back slowly away from the scene. I didn't mean anything by it. Yeah. Right. And then, by the way, it doesn't have to be like a super offensive joke. It just has to be a joke that's just up against the edge of one of the, to use the Sam Bankman-Fried term, one of the shibboleths. It has to be up against one of the things one of the things that you're absolutely required to believe to be the dinner parties. And then at that point, what happens is you have a peer-to-peer network, right? You have a one-to-one connection with somebody, and then you have your little conspiracy of thought criminality. And then you have you've probably been through this. You have your network of thought criminals, and then they have their network of thought criminals, and then you have this like delicate mating dance as to whether you should bring the thought criminals together, right? And
the dance, the fundamental mechanism of the dance is humor.
Yeah, it's humor. Like it's right. Well, of course,
memes. Yeah.
Well, for two reasons. Number one, humor is a way to have deniability. Right. Humor is a way to discuss serious things without having deniability. Oh, I'm sorry, it was just a joke. Right. So that's part of it, which is one of the reasons why comedians can get away with saying things the rest of us can't. Is they can always fall back on, oh yeah, I was just going for the laugh. Yeah. But the other key thing about humor, right, is that laughter is involuntary. Right? Like you either laugh or you don't. And it's not like a conscious decision whether you're going to laugh. And everybody can tell when somebody's fake laughing, right? And every professional comedian knows this, right? The laughter is the clue that you're onto something truthful. Like people don't laugh at like made up bullshit stories. They laugh because like you're revealing something that they either have not been allowed to think about or have not been allowed to talk about, right? Or is off limits. And all of a sudden it's like the ice breaks and it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. And it's funny. And like, I laugh. And then of course, this is why, of course, live comedy is so powerful, is because you're all doing that at the same time. So you start to have, right, the safety of numbers. And so the comedians have like it's no surprise to me that, like, for example, Joe's been as successful as he has because they have this hack that the rest of us who are not professional comedians don't have. But you have your in-person version of it. Yeah. And then you got the question of whether you can sort of join the networks together. And then you've probably been to this then at some point there's like the alt dinner party, the thought criminal dinner party, and you get 6 or 8 people together and you join the networks. And those are like the happiest, at least in the last decade, those are like the happiest moments of everybody's lives, because they're just like, everybody's just ecstatic because they're like, I don't have to worry about getting yelled at and shamed like for every third sentence that comes out of my mouth, and we can actually talk about real things. So that's the live version of it, and then of course the other side of it is the group chat phenomenon, right? And then basically the same thing played out, until Elon bought X and until Substack took off, which were really the two big breakthroughs in free speech online. The same dynamic played out online, which is you had absolute conformity on the social networks, like literally enforced by the social networks themselves through censorship and then also through cancellation campaigns and mobbing and shaming, right? But then group chats grew up to be the equivalent of samizdat, right? Anybody who grew up in the Soviet Union under communism, they had the hard version of this, right? It's like, how do you know who you could talk to, and then how do you distribute information, and again, that was the hard authoritarian version of this, and then we've been living through this weird mutant, soft authoritarian version, but with some of the same patterns.
And WhatsApp allows you to scale it, make it more efficient, to build on these groups of heretical ideas bonded by humor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and this is the thing, and this is kind of the running joke about group, or the running kind of thing about group chats. It's not even a joke; it's true. It's like every group chat. If you've noticed this, like this principle of group chats, every group chat ends up being about memes and humor, and the goal of the game of the group chat is to get as close to the line of being actually objectionable, as you can get without actually tripping it, right? And like literally every group chat that I have been in for the last decade, even if it starts some other direction, what ends up happening is it becomes the absolute comedy fest but it's they walk right up the line. And they're constantly testing. And every once in a while, somebody will trip the line and people will freak out. And it's like, oh, too soon. Okay, we got to wait until next year to talk about that. They walk it back. And so it's that same thing. And yeah, and then group chats is a technological phenomenon. It was amazing to see because basically it was, number one, it was, obviously the rise of smartphones. Then it was the rise of the new messaging services. Then it was the rise specifically of, I would say, combination of WhatsApp and Signal. And the reason for that is those were the two big systems that did the full encryption. So you actually felt safe. And then the real breakthrough, I think, was disappearing messages, which hit Signal probably 4 or 5 years ago and hit WhatsApp 3 or 4 years ago. And then the combination of encryption and disappearing messages, I think, really unleashed it. Well, and then there's the fight. Then there's the fight over the length of the disappearing messages, right? And so it's like, I often get behind my thing, so I set to 7-day disappearing messages, and my friends who are like, no, that's way too much risk.
Yeah,
it's got to be a day. And then every once in a while, somebody will set it to 5 minutes before they send something like particularly inflammatory.
Yeah. 100%. Well, one of the things that bothers me about WhatsApp, the choice is between 24 hours and 7 days, 1 day or 7 days. Right. And I have to have an existential crisis about deciding whether I can last for 7 days with what I'm about to say.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, what's happening right now is the big thaw, right? And so the vibe shift. So what's happening on the other side of the election is, Elon on Twitter 2 years ago, and now Mark with Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, with the continued growth of Substack and with other, new platforms that are emerging, I think it may be, I don't know that everything just shifts back into public, but like a tremendous amount of the verboten conversations, can now shift back into public view. And I mean, quite frankly, this is one of those things, quite frankly, even if I was opposed to what those what people are saying, and I'm sure I am in some cases, I would argue it's still like net better for society that those things happen in public instead of private. Do you really want, don't you want to know?
Yeah.
And so then it's just I think clearly much healthier to live in a society in which people are not literally scared of what they're saying.